morning everybody, and welcome to Darvanalee Designs Studio. For those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reed, and today is my cross stitch with me. Normally it's a live stream, but I'm not even back from retreat yet, or I'll be just packing up and getting ready to come back. So basically we are going to be working on the Halloween Quaker yet again, affectionately known as Hilda. Thanks to Bree's Stitching Stuff daughter, she named it. You might hear a little bit of music happening across the road because I'm actually filming this on a Sunday afternoon, and my neighbourhood today, when normally quiet, is very noisy. We've got hotted up cars going past, we've got the neighbours playing some rap music across the way, the kids are screaming and all the rest of it. So I will try to limit the noise that I can. When I upload this, I'll might have some soft music playing in the background just to get rid of any sort of background noise. Alrighty, so this is the chart that we're working on. As you can see, it has got a lot of different motifs in it. Today we'll be working on this one here with the candy corn in the center. We're going to be working on the outside of it today, just the black bit. We're going to go for about an hour. I've got some questions here that you might be interested in. Again, I'm using the Get to Know Your Needleworker tag, and basically I find all different questions that come up. So I've got them printed off, and so I'm going to mosey on through those as we're stitching along. And as I said, we're going to stitch this motif here, and I'm looking forward to adding a little bit of colour. I've also got a yellow and a purple little motif there to go in as well. So hopefully we can get the outside of this done within the hour, and then we can join me again next Monday for some more stitching time. All right, so I'm going to get started. And I've already loaded up my needle, and I know where I've got to start that motif because we're starting from scratch. So hopefully you can see that there where I'm going to be stitching. So I'll just move this up a little bit and I can see that. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I do have the mic in today just to make the background noise a little less annoying for us, and we cannot see that chart, so I can have that sitting there, which is good. I have my questions, I have my coffee, and we're about to get started. So as I said, I've got that already through. I know where I'm going to start, and I've got to then put 3 stitches in going to the right, and we can get going. I've got the microphone underneath here, so hopefully I don't bump it too much and you won't get any of that noise coming through. So how has everybody's weekend been? Hopefully you've had a good one. We've had a good one. We've been away at retreat and possibly still there at the moment. And what is going on under here? I think I've got caught up in the mic. Just bear with me for just a moment. Just get my thread up and just see what's going on there. First thread's just caught up under the mic, so there we go. That should be fine now. And I must have pulled the thread when I moved the mic underneath and it got caught up in it. All right, so that's our first stitch. Right, we're ready to go now. Yeah, so we would have been away at retreat, and surely we've had a good time. I know we always have a good time at our retreats. We love doing them, Beck and I. And I don't know if I said we're working with Blackbird thread by Classic Colourworks today, so it's a little bit darker than the last time you've seen Hilda, which was for this motif up here. That is all now complete and ready to, I can't wait, like, yeah, we're just ready to move on, and I'm getting there, and I'm stitching my little heart out on it during homework and all the rest of it. So yeah. All right, so we might just plod along with our stitching here, and I'll just grab my pen so I can mark off as I'm going so I don't get lost, because we know how easy that is and we don't want to be frogging out, do we? All right, so I was lucky enough to film this on the Sunday this week. As I said, normally we do a live stream, but we're away at retreat for when this is supposed to be being live, and Savannah's helping me out by taking little M down to the park so I can quickly get this sorted and we don't miss out on seeing Hilda get some stitches into her. Alright, so we'll start with the get to know your needlework tag. I've got 16 questions today. Hopefully we'll get through them. Whatever I don't get through, we can continue on the next time Hilda comes out to pay a visit. And if you hear a question that you would like to answer, don't forget to leave your comments down below, and that way I can see what your answers are to the questions as well, and I can get to know you a little bit better as well. And even if you're not a cross stitcher, there may be something there that's relevant to your craft. Alright, so the first question is, how do you arrange the floss you are using on a project? Oh, that's tricky because I'm relatively new. I'm still trying to work out those little finer details. For the most part, I generally just pull out the floss and have it in with the kit. So for this particular one, I have just got all the floss and I've got them on a washi tape ring because these pretty much come with their own floss drops. So I just hook them onto the washi tape ring and then they're there and I don't have to worry about it. They're just easy to access and they just stay with the project. I don't tend to use a lot of fancy floss. I've got, I'm using CXC, which has the equivalent numbers to DMC, except it's a lot cheaper for us here in Australia. And so I tend to just, depending on the project, if it's only got a couple of flosses in it, I'll just throw the flosses on the bobbins. So you can see here I've got bobbins, just cardboard ones. I just wrap the floss around it. Other projects that have lots, I tend to take a couple of strands off my master set and just put them on floss drops into the project, and that's how I tend to do it. I don't know any other way really because I'm only new, so I haven't come across any fandangle way of doing it. So how would you end up putting your flosses into projects? Maybe give me some ideas down below, leave a comment, and yeah, let me know how you do it for your projects. Don't you hate that when you get a little knot and it just doesn't want to go? Just being stubborn, and then you've got to try and get the right side for it to disappear, and no matter how much you try, it won't go. There we go. All right. Okay, question number 2. Have you attempted to dye fabric? If so, what methods did you use? If not, is there a particular method you want to try? Okay, so yes, I have attempted to dye some fabrics. I have used the coffee tea dye. For the most part, I don't have a lot of time for that sort of stuff with YouTube and the group, Facebook group and swaps and all that sort of stuff. I sort of try to limit my time where I can save some time for myself to focus on other areas by buying stuff pre-done, and it supports other little small crafting businesses as well. I tend to get most of my supplies from Sew It All Australia. I find them reasonably priced. I find them to be very quick with their turnaround of orders. I don't have to wait very long, which is always good. But other than that, I haven't really done any sort of, like I've done fabric dyeing, you know, like regular cotton and stuff like that. But as far as cross stitch dyeing fabrics, I haven't really done it except for coffee tea dye. I would like to do some more dyeing, most definitely. We've got a retreat coming up at the end of May, and on one of the days we have actually put down to do some botanical dyeing, mainly because we're renting the premises, and yeah, we don't want to be spilling RIT dye on their nice countertops and floors and all that sort of stuff. So botanical dyeing it is. At least we can clean that up if there's a slight accident or a mishap. So yeah. All right, so the next question is, if you use a needle threader, is there any specific type you prefer? Yes, there is. Don't know if you've seen it before, but if you're new here, you probably haven't seen it. I got, at the end of last year, I got a Hade. At the end of last year, I got a Hade. And I got the material pack, and in the material pack came this little needle threader, and it is a godsend. So I think you can actually buy them from Heaven and Earth. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't actually looked, but yeah, I just absolutely love it. And in the process, I am actually in the process of making some more. So I've got a few of them. And yeah, but that is the sort of needle threader that I like to use. It's just it's solid. It doesn't give me any grief. It handles the floss that goes through the needles, and yeah, I haven't had it break or anything. Whereas other ones that I've used, they haven't been quite as sturdy, and they've just broken. So that doesn't really help you when you're trying to thread a needle. All right, so for those that are watching, comment down below and let me know what sort of needle threader that you like to use. Do you have a Heaven and Earth one as well? Let me know down below. And I do apologise if you can hear that banging. That is my neighbour belting on something. I don't know what he's belting on. It drives me crazy. They are so not quiet. And when you're trying to, you know, just enjoy the peace and quiet and do some stitching, they aren't always the most compliant people for being quiet. Alright, anyway, enough about my neighbours. Alright, if you use any type of frame to stitch, do you stitch with fabric over the frame or in a well? Well, I stitch with mine over the frame, as you can see here. I don't do it any other way. I was never taught any other way. This was the way I was taught how to do it, so this is how I do it. I prefer it a little bit better than in the well. The in the well method looks great, but yeah, I'm just not too sure about it, like how I would stitch effectively with it like that. Yeah, so I don't know. I might try it one day and see if I like it or not. But anyway, this is how I was taught to load up a hoop, and I suppose that comes from hand embroidery, and yeah, so I just done the same thing with cross stitch. I just thought that that was the way it was done. I didn't know any different. All right, so now we need to go across the bottom. So we've just got a single line now, which is going together pretty quickly. All right, so that's where I sort of stand. Do you start your threads in the front or the back of your projects, and what methods do you use? Okay, so for this particular method that I'm using today, I start in the back. I'm using fancy flosses, so I don't use the loop method when I'm using fancy floss. Basically, I put a knot in the end, and before everybody freaks out, don't freak out just yet. I put a knot in the end, and then I have my hand underneath when I thread my come through with the first stitch, and I wait for that knot to hit my finger, and then I will just hold that knot and move it away, probably about 3/4 of an inch away. But first of all, I'll cross the stitch over and then move it away, if that makes any sense at all. And it all gets all caught up in it, and then I just snip that that knot off. I don't know if that has a name, if that's a way that some cross stitches start or not. That's just how I start mine. I guess it's called like a waist knot, but I know that you can do that all different ways. So that's what I tend to do, because then it's all just woven through this. Other ways that I have done it, where I might be starting where it's already partially done. So say I was stitching along here and I had to come up to the next row, I would weave underneath the row below under 3 stitches, maybe 4 stitches, and then come up and continue on with my crosses. And when I finish the same way. All right, question 6. If you are a gridder, what is the preferred method of gridding? Buying easy grid fabric. That's easy. If I'm doing the Haid, I got the easy grid fabric, and I cannot see myself in any way, shape or form actually using anything but easy grid. I don't have the time to sit down and grid, and I've seen lots of videos of it being done, and I've seen people in person doing it, and quite frankly, to me, that is just a huge load of work when I can count. So if I'm going to use gridded fabric, I would just buy it. Easy grid, Wonder Grid, yeah, whatever else it's got varying different names and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd just buy it. And you can get it in my favorite, I have seen it in 28 count. So, and I like to stitch on 28 count, as most of you know. So I wouldn't really have a need to sit there and grid. And like, it's just, yeah, it just seems painful. Like, and when you're using a full, like, I don't grid for this sort of stuff. I would only grid for a full coverage. So just to make it easier for counting. But I guess people would want to have it with for just regular projects and stuff like that. I guess if you're struggling to see a project or something like that, gridding, I can see the benefits of gridding. But as I said, I'm okay with just doing what I'm doing right now and not having to grid. It doesn't faze me, And with something like a Quaker, if you're one out with these motifs, like, it's not going to make a huge difference because they're pretty much all separate entities to themselves. It's probably only when you get down to the houses that, you'd want to have them spot on. But, yeah, for the most part, like, you've only got a small gap between each one, so you don't really have to count a long way. That's just my opinion anyway. All right. Well, this is a good one. What is your favourite way to finish a project? So once you've stitched everything out, how do you like to FFO your projects? Leave a comment down below and let me know what your favourite way of finishing a project is. I like the flat fold and the little cushions. They're probably my favourite way of fully finishing things. I do have a few plans for a couple of different projects that will be different. So one, I'm turning into a mini quilt that's going to essentially be my business sign. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that is the Laurie Holtz Quilter's Cottage that I just recently finished. So I'm going to put a border of blocks around it, just small blocks, and then I will quilt those blocks on the machine and yeah, just go from there. All right, just got to do a quick bit of counting. So yeah, that would probably, there's lots of different ways I want to try to finish my projects, but yeah, I'd say my favourite way to date has been flat fold and little pillows. As I said, I've got grand plans for lots of other ways of finishing stuff, which will be exciting to say the least, getting to see those different ways. All right. Okay, so the next question, I would be interested to know what everybody thought. What was your first cross-stitching milestone? So for me, it was finishing my little mushroom. It was the first time I had cross-stitched anything. It was on 18 count 8R, so it was small, but I was so proud of myself when I finished that. 15. Awesome. Stopped right at the right one. All right, so that is, yeah, that would be my milestone, just getting that first piece finished. I mean, obviously putting the first cross in was pretty exciting and all the rest of it, but actually finishing that piece off, that was pretty exciting to me, although it looks a little bit tragic, but that's it there, and it's got little mushroom pins in it. It's just a little pin cushion. I got it off AliExpress. It's 18 count Ada, so it was a little bit tricky. All my stitches are dodgy because it was my very first cross stitching piece. But I must say that my back stitching on this is pretty awesome. I'm pretty happy with that. And I've got French knots on there as well. And if you want to see a tutorial about French knots, we do have one on our channel. So yeah, you can find that, and it's in the Down in the Garden series. You'll see it there, and basically you'll be able to watch that and see how to do French knots, because a lot of people get tricked up on them, and they're really not that scary once you know how to do them. But yeah, it's a little bit dodgy. It was supposed to have an Ada back as well, but I gave the other square to Beck, and I think she's finished the red part now, so she's not into cross stitching as much as me, but she does enjoy it. So, but you can see there I've got back stitching on there, and I've got some French knots, and yeah, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. Like, considering that was my very first cross stitch piece. I have done hand embroidery before, but yeah, that was my first piece, which I was pretty happy with. The next question is, what is a stitch goal you have, something you want to conquer? Something that I want to conquer. I would have to say stitching on 40 count linen. I've heard that it's really scary. I've heard lots of scary stories about it. I've heard how people struggle with it. I've heard lots of horror stories about it, you know, but I'm willing to give anything a go, and I reckon I will probably want a couple more charts under my belt before I stitch on it, and I'd probably want to get a little bit of equipment, such as magnifiers. I've got good lights. This is my stitching light that's over me right now that my hubby just got me recently. And for the most part, it's been just sat on the table, and it's getting used for tutorials and all sorts of stuff. And as you can see, it's quite bright. So maybe a magnifier, I might want to get one of those to help me out, because I would hate to spend all that money on linen and then have to essentially give it away and not do the project. So I definitely would want to get some magnifiers, and yeah, give it a go and see how I go. Like, it might be the only project that I do on it, on that count, but at least I would have had a go at it, and at least I can say that, yep, I tried, I failed, thanks but no thanks. So what's your stitchy goals? Do you have something that you want to conquer? I mean, there's lots of things out there that I'd like to have a go at. But, you know, sometimes you just got to draw the line. Like, you can't do everything. Or so they say. I'm giving it a red hot go. All right, so this is a good one. I'd leave a comment down below and tell me the answer to this one. I'd actually really like to hear this one. So question 10 is, what is your silly dolt moment in stitching? So what was your, you know, the Homer Simpson forehead slap dull moment in your stitching? Leave me a comment down below and tell me what that is, because I'm really interested to see what that is. I don't think I've had a full-on dot moment, but there's been a couple of times I've gone, why didn't I think of that? Or, you know, just logical things that come to mind, you know, things that, because I'm still learning. So obviously I'm going to have a few of those dough moments where I just go, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I didn't know that, or I can't believe I've just done that, or something along those lines. So at this point in time, I don't have too many. actually probably ordering a Max Color Hade would probably be my biggest dolt moment at the moment so far. Because when it came in, I definitely went, holy beep, 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 beep. Because when I ordered that, I had been stitching for all of 2 months, maybe 3 at the outmost, so not long at all. I had not long since started my floss tube. So yeah, and I ordered a Max Color Hade, which, by the way, has over 400,000 stitches in it. So I knew it was a long-term project and all that sort of stuff. So that sort of thing didn't really surprise me. What surprised me was when I opened up the package and there was all those flosses there. And I just went, oh my God, what have I done? But at the same time, my thought process behind that when I was ordering was, well, and I'm talking about the Autumn Queen here. I was thinking along the lines that if I'm going to sink this much time and energy into a project, I want to have as many of the colors that I can out of that chart going into it. And also just knowing that the detail that will be there, there'll be just so much detail in that chart once it's finished. And that is what I'm looking for. But it was still a oh my God, what have I done moment when I opened that package. Like, if you've had it would have been hysterical to get that on film, because oh my God, I was just like, what have I done? You know, when it's 237 colors, and granted, some of the colors might only be in that chart 2 or 3 times, but as I said, the level of detail that I want to get from the chart is why I went with a Max Colors chart. And subsequently, my Hubba Bubble is a Max Color as well, and so is every other chart that I've bought, because, as I said, if you're going to sink that much time and effort into something, you're going to want as much detail and color, and just, yeah, you want it to be awesome. And so that's sort of where I stand on that. But still, it was a moment. All right, so I just got to reach over and change the page. So that's 10 questions done. All right, the next one is, if you use paper charts, do you print them at home or do you use a service? Well, I don't know about any of you, but for me, I print them at home myself, because generally I live in a small country town, and most times when I do cross stitching, it's at night and nothing's open. So I sort of have to print them off myself. So I have a lot of charts already here, so I'm just making a working copy of it. So I will just be photocopying page 1 or 2 or whatever, and just working with that. And just as I go, I generally just, yeah, print them off as I need them. If they're a PDF, the pages I need them. If it's a chart that I have here, I just pull out the page that I'm working on, and then I will just photocopy that. And then, yeah, I've got it, and I don't have to worry about running downtown or anything like that. All right, so the next question is, if you use paper charts, how do you mark them? We've had this conversation before. I like to use a friction pen. So that is a friction pen for those that don't know. And what happens is you can mark your fabric and then you can iron it off. But it also works for paper as well. So my charts, I use these, and the highlighters do as well, but I find the highlighter will actually remove some of the black ink out of the chart. So I tend to use these pens, and I just use them gently. I don't put a lot of ink down, because if you put a lot of ink down, it adds moisture, and then when you iron it off, it will actually take away the ink that was there. So I just use a friction pen, and then when I'm finished with my working copy, I just slide that back into the pattern, and like I iron it off and then slide it back into the pattern. and it's there for the next person. They don't have to worry about, because I passed my stash on, they don't have to worry about printing off a copy or anything like that. It's already in there. So, and I've got that going with the Laurie Holt giveaway that we've got at the moment with my floss tube, not on this video, just on our floss tube. We've got a giveaway over there, and all the details are on our last floss tube, so you can go and have a bit of a watch of that after this video, and you'll get all the details there. So as I say, you've got to be in it to win it, so make sure you get over there and have a bit of a look. And I actually say, I don't know what I'm doing there, just doing some back stitch, don't worry about that. It's that time of the day where I'm just a little bit tired and probably shouldn't be stitching, but anyway, we'll see how we go. Yeah, so basically I just iron it off, and occasionally I pick up the wrong pen like I did with the quilter's cottage. There's just a little bit of a section that has got some permanent ink on it, unfortunately, but it's the working copy. It's not the actual chart itself, so you can still make a working copy if you have to. So I've just chucked that working copy in there, and then you've got it, so you can just basically get the chart, get your fabric, get your flosses, and go for it. You don't have to worry about going and getting anything done. So I try to do that for the most part. And I also like to use the friction pen, because if I'm out and about and I've forgotten my working copy, I can actually just mark my original chart, and it's not going to make any difference. All right, so, oh, this will be a good one, and I love books. All right, so this one is a goodie. I'm happy with this question. The question is, just got to start this, sorry. The light's just reflecting on the fabric just that little bit, and I cannot quite make out what it's doing. Sorry about that. So the question is there a cross-stitch book that you would recommend for a beginner or anybody really? All right, so is there a book that you would recommend? Yes, there is actually, and I got this from and I'll just have to move the camera up a little bit. So I got this from, I think it was Deb from Country Stitches, and it is Alphabets and Borders by Better Homes and Gardens. And I got this off Amazon, and they delivered to Australia, and it's got a ton of stuff in it. So you can see there's some nice little pictures on the front and all the rest of it, but it is predominantly all the different charts, so that's just a couple to show you. But yeah, they've got lots and lots of, it's a really good reference book. So you can see here that they've got, I mean, W for watermelon obviously, but and it is a little bit older, this book. So I think it was first published in, let me just have a look here. It was published by Better Homes and Gardens in Iowa, and it was, let me just find it, 1994 was when it first came out. But it is a timeless alphabets and borders and stuff like that, little things that you can add in, you know. And we see a lot of these today where there's little bears and bunnies and all that sort of stuff. So what else have we got? But it's got a ton of different alphabets, which is really good, because, you know, especially if you want to make something up yourself, you don't want to, you know, get something generic from the market or whatever, you can actually use that. But yeah, that would be a book that I would recommend, most definitely. It's got some amazing stuff in it. I'm really, really happy with it. So just make sure that you can't see that chart like you could just a minute ago. Sorry about that. All right, so I think I've got it all under control now. So what book would you suggest? Write down below in the comments and let me know what sort of book that you would recommend, because I'm always interested in books. I love books. Books are my favorite thing. there's a quote, and I cannot remember who it's by at this point in time, but it is a quote that says, a house without books, yeah, a home without books is like a house without windows. And that is so true. Like, you need to have books in your life. Why wouldn't you? You can learn so much from it. I have a couple of kids that aren't into reading, but as they've got older, they've got a little bit more interested in it. And then I've got one that I can just never get her out of a book. So this thread's just a little bit how you going. Oh, not much I can do about it. Just the weave of it's a little bit average. Hopefully I can fix that up somehow. That's the only thing about this Quaker cloth. It does move around a little bit, and does make it a little bit problematic at times. Like right now, there's just one spot that's just got something going on with it, and it just doesn't want to play the game. I don't know why. Hopefully that'll go through. Just had to go just a slight bigger than what it was supposed to be. Alright. Now it looks a little bit better. There we go. Alright, so I've just had a little bit of a fix there. It's probably not the best way to fix something, but I can see now my crosses are in the right shape, and it's not, there's one of the threads had just opened up that little bit too far. That was giving it a little bit of grief, but now it's looking somewhat normal. Alright, so the next question is there anything that you find you are very nitpicky about in your cross stitch? No, not at this point. I'm sure as I get older and better at it, I'll become more particular. At this point in time, my main goal is just to learn how to do it effectively, learn as much as I can about designers and different techniques and all that sort of stuff. But for the most part, I'm not too nitpicky. I believe that, you know, you just get in, you have a go, and I don't tend to change anything, or like, of course I just changed something then because there was a gaping hole between the threads and it was making it look weird, and so I've tried to do a self-fix on that, and luckily for me it's turned out okay. I haven't had to frog anything out as such. But looks like a little puppy dog. So nitpicky, no. I like to see my journey, and I'm the same with my patchworking as well. Like, I don't get hung up on the perfectionism that comes with the territory. I like to just get in and have a go, and if it doesn't turn out, oh well, I will do better next time. So that is generally what I like to do, because, and the reason that I'm like that is because I have watched so many people over the years lose their spark and their joy over being perfect. And there's no reason to be perfect. It's about enjoying the journey. It's about enjoying your craft or your hobby or whatever it is that you are doing. And that's across all levels. I mean, obviously, you know, if you're a race car driver, you're going to have to be somewhat a bit of a perfectionist. Otherwise, you're going to end up in all sorts of mischief. But, you know, for cross-stitching and crafting and all that sort of stuff, there's really no reason to get hung up on the perfectionism and then judge others over it. You know, not everything is going to be to people's taste and all the rest of it. And not to sound too naggy about it, but it really drives me to distraction. Not so much in the cross-stitching world. I found that the cross-stitching world is a lovely world to be in. Everybody is so welcoming and loving, and I'm sure there's people that judge the hell out of other people, but for the most part, they keep it to themselves. They don't spread the love around like some people in the quilting industry, and, well, not even the industry, just in the quilting forum in general. You know, there's a reason why people say there's no quilt police here, because there are people out there that feel the need to shame and put other people down, which is really, really sad, because doing that to someone could actually rob that person of getting to know a really nice person, and they might bring something to the table that they didn't know, and stuff like that. So I don't tend to be too nitpicky with my stuff. If it turns out, it turns out. If it doesn't, oh well, there's always next time. So yeah, like, and I'm sure a lot of you that are in multi-crafts and whatnot have come across it. I have been lucky enough not to come across it in the cross-stitching world, but there have been people that have said, oh, you're lucky, I've come across it and whatnot. Well, I haven't at this point, so I'm grateful for that, because it hasn't left a bad taste in my mouth, which is good, because I'm still cross-stitching, which is good. This is a good thing. So yeah, I don't like to get nitpicky, and I don't like to judge others and stuff over their work and all the rest of it. And yes, some things aren't going to be to my taste, and that even comes down to charts and or the way you do things and stuff like that, because they don't work for me, or they don't appeal to my stitching side or stuff like that, you know. And it's the same in quilting, and it's the same in any craft that I do. Not everything is going to be to an individual's choice. So getting nitpicky about stuff, even in your own work, is just futile, really. Next question is, favorite L&S store you have visited while on a trip, if you have been to one? Well, just recently, Tia from Calm Creations and I were in Brisbane, and we do have the shopping video going up, and that's my bad, because I have been distracted and haven't been on task and all the rest of it. But we went to a little place called All Things Embroidery, I think it is. All Threads Embroidery, sorry. And oh my god, that is such a lovely store. Yeah, so we've got that coming up, and it was a gorgeous, like, seriously, we could have stayed in there for, like, we were in there for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And we sort of were limited because it was a Saturday morning that we were there. And you can see some of the things that we got from there from our special guest videos that we both put up. And we done a joint video, so you get to see what Tia got and did for the week on my channel, and then I was over on her channel showing you what I did for the week. I'll link them up down below so you can go and have a watch of those, because it was quite interesting, some of the things that we've got. And yeah, so as I said, we spent 2.5 hours, I think we were in there for, and I can tell you, we made ourselves at home. We really did. We were sitting on the floor and we were going through everything. Now, it's not just cross-stitch in there. She had a considerable amount of embroidery, hanger, candle wicking, like anything to do with floss, basically, she had going on in there. And she had a ton of different charts and whatnot. And the amount of threads, flosses, silks, wools, tapestry stuff was just phenomenal. She had a good range of fabric as well, which sadly I didn't get any, and I should have. But, you know, you live and learn, as they say. So, yeah, so basically that was an amazing experience. We went to another one, but they seemed to be getting out of the cross-stitching and just focusing more on quilting, which was sad. They had a few things there, but most of the stuff we'd already seen or had and weren't interested in. So there wasn't a great deal at the second one we went to. And of course, you know, that's a sad day when they're starting to get out of cross-stitching, because from where I'm sitting, cross-stitching is huge across this country of Australia. And in the US as well. Like, you only have to get on to YouTube and put in floss tube to know that every man and his dog is doing a floss tube, and every man and his dog or woman is doing cross-stitching or talking about market, or doing March Madness, or gearing up for Stitch Mania. Like, and here you've got a store that's closing down. Like, well, they're not closing down, they're just closing down the stitching part of their shop, which is really, really sad. You know, and I've been looking at it for the last couple of months. I haven't had a chance. I live a long way from where it is, and I haven't had a chance to get down to Brisbane, and that was the first time I had been down to Brisbane, and I spent the weekend in Brisbane itself with Tia. She's come and joined me on the Saturday night, but I was there for the Friday night, and yeah, so it was big day shopping we had too. We went everywhere. We didn't stop for a coffee. We did not stop for lunch or nothing. We were women on a mission. We but it was a great weekend. We had a fabulous time. It was the first time we'd ever met in person as well. And we just connected basically, and we just had a really good time. And then we met up with the cross stitches of Brisbane on the Sunday and spent the day talking, not stitching, because I only got about 10 stitches in. But I met some lovely people. I got to meet Jenny and Leanne. Leanne is from Morgana Stitchy Moon 75 here. She's got her own floss tube as well. So head over and see what she's working on. I love watching her Haid come together. So she's got a Haid that she's working on. I cannot remember the name of the chart, but I do know the artist is Lisa Parker. She is one of my favourite artists, and I am working on her. I've got 3 or 4 of her artworks in Haids, and I am currently working on Hubble Bubble, which has got 3 cats in it that look very much like my cats that I used to have. We have working cats, like when I say used to have, we used to live on a farm and we have working cats. So when I say working cats, they keep mice away, they keep snakes away. And believe it or not, they get quite protective of your family and stuff like that. And so I have lost, you know, cats to snakes and stuff like that, but they are working cats. They're well looked after, but they're just still working cats. They predominantly live outside. They take care of the environment, keeping the mice and all that sort of stuff away. So yeah, and I've lost a couple. And the Hubble Bubble one, there is 3 cats. There's some little kittens and what I assume is the mother cat, and there's Bubbles, and yeah, it's sort of a witchy sort of scene, but with cats in it, and I just love it. And yeah, she's working on one that I would have liked to have got, but I figured, you know, like, I'll just get through the ones that I've got, which are all max colors, and I'm working on 2 Haids at the moment. So any more than that might start to do my head in. And seriously, we'll be doing stitching with me live from the mental health ward at the local hospital. So I know that 2 is my limit, and that's where I'm going to stay. So I know for the next few years, those ones will get a lot of love, and you will see them from time to time. During Mania, I am actually just working on my Autumn Queen, and it'll be interesting to see how much I do in a month. I'm not actually going to be doing anything else but my Autumn Queen. So hopefully I can do penalty stitches in School of Magical Stitches that week. If not, I will be foregoing homework. And in that month, sorry, I'll be foregoing extra credit and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to use my Haid for the entire month for both Mania and for School of Magical Stitches, and then that way I can make a really good dent on it. My goal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my goal for that month is to get at least 2 pages finished. There's some lofty goals right there, isn't it? Hopefully I can get more. That'd be awesome. Like, I've only got 100 pages. Like, really, I don't have that many. I'm still on page 1. So yeah, I'm going to be doing it for just a little while. All right, so the next question is there anything you do that you feel takes up a lot of time when you cross stitch but is worth it in the end? I would have to say doing 1 cross at a time. Sewing in hand and doing journey stitching or cross country or whatever you want to call it is quicker, but I find like it's just, I find it easier not to do that. I do 1 stitch at a time, and as you can see, I can get myself in a pickle at any given time. I do 1 stitch at a time, and basically I do 1 full cross. And it takes a little bit longer, but I find I like the look of it better. Don't get me wrong, I'll stitch in hand if I get half a chance, and I did that with my Quilter's Cottage. I finished that off by stitching in hand. So yeah, that's a hard one. yeah, I would have to say that one cross at a time, I find just gives you a neater finish. It takes a lot longer, but it just gives you a neater finish. And, you know, like when you're working with fancy floss like I am today, you can only really do one cross at a time because otherwise you lose that variegation. So, and I like that variegation, you know, and when you live in Australia, you're paying $5 for these threads in some cases, you know. Some cases it might be a bit cheaper, but for the most part you are paying a pretty penny for them. And you're going to want to see that variegation. Not that there's much variegation in this at the moment, but do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I think it's worth it in the end. My crosses look better. They're neater. They're more structured. You know, there's pros and cons for stitching in hand and doing cross-country or journey stitching. You know, it is quicker and all the rest of it, but I think the whole point of, and this I know is rich coming from me, considering how many stitches I put in a week and how many projects I touch in a week. For me, it's not about the speed. When I first started, I was feeling like I had to be quick and all the rest of it. I guess I was feeling a little bit pressured by all the people that were doing the stuff, and I felt that I needed to stitch all the stuff. I've grown a little bit since last May, and I feel that I don't necessarily have to stitch all the stuff all of the time. So while I am doing School of Magical Stitches, and it's great because I get to work on different projects and all the rest of it, I'm not stitching like a mad woman. And January this year probably taught me that. I was stitching like a mad woman, like I had to get 1,000 stitches in every single day. And I took a step back at the end of January. While January was an awesome month for me for stitching, it wasn't an awesome month really because I didn't spend, like, not that my kids wanted to hang out with me anyway. They were buggered from their school year last year. They had a hectic year, especially Narralee. She had been dancing up a storm and all the rest of it. So I get that she just wanted to lounge around and do nothing. But I feel like looking back at January, I done a lot of stitches. Did I get much done? No, not really. I got 5 finishes, but they were only small. Whereas if I didn't do those small finishes, I could have put more time into Hilda, you know, and probably been further along with her. So now I am still doing School of Magical Stitches, and I love it. And I love the challenge each week of trying to fit as many homework prompts into Hilda or into Hawk Run Hollow, which are massive projects that I've taken on. Yeah, like I really enjoy that. So like this month's been awesome for Hawk Run Village because not only has it been fitting into my homework prompts this month, it's also fit into extra credit, which gives me close to 1,500 stitches, if not more, because I'm pretty sure I can fit it into one last bit of extra credit. So I'm looking at 1,800 stitches, which gets me a finish on the block. So in that aspect, I really enjoy it. But I also like the slowness of doing the stitching now. So instead of trying to rush through and get as much done, I'm not really caring whether I do it in a hoop, a Q-snap, or like, I still don't like Q-snaps, don't get me wrong. I still do not like Q-snaps. I find them awkward to use, and very cumbersome to hold for long periods of time. And considering most nights I like to stitch for a good 4 hours, anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, you can imagine my hand in this position for that long is starting to hurt. Yes, I know I can get a Lowry stand. Yes, I know I could probably get a multitude of things to hold that Q-snap, but yeah. So I'm finding that the bamboo hoops, they're light enough to just rest in my hand. There's no real weight to them. You know, because let's face it, I do some big baps. And for those that don't know what baps are, cover your ears if you don't like swearing. They are big ass projects is what they are. And let's face it, my projects are big ass projects. So, you know, like Hawk Run was just meant to be, you know, a little old chart that I did, got 12 blocks in it. But no, I have to turn it into the ginormous thing that it's going to be, which is a big wall quilt, and I'm doing all of the charts, which is great. I'm happy to do that, because the simple fact is that at the end of it, I'm going to have an absolutely amazing, I've just got caught up under the microphone there. I'm going to have an amazing wall quilt that's going to be a family heirloom. Savannah's really encouraging me to do it as well. So like, I'm super excited about it. I am so looking forward to it now. So for those that don't know, what I'm doing is I'm actually doing the Hawk Run Village. So that is by Carriage House Samplings, I think it is. And basically they've got a whole series called the Hawk Run series. So there's a map, there's the shores, there's the Halloween, there's autumn, spring, there's the village, the houses, and a few Christmas, and there's a few other ones as well in there. And so I'm going to do all of the charts. So this has now gone from just a chart that I was doing this year to a chart that I'm doing for the next decade. So from 50 to 60, I'm going to be doing these charts. So one chart a year, so I'm not making it stressful. And basically I'm just going to stitch that, and then once it's finished, I'm going to set it aside, and then in the 10th year I will put it together in a quilter and quilt it and put it up on my wall. So that is the plan that I have for that. So you know, I'm going to be cross-stitching for a long time, so to speak. And then, you know, I've got my Hades in on that as well. So doing magical stitches actually gets me doing a lot of stitching and stuff like that. But yeah, since I first started, I have progressed now to just stitching how I'm stitching right now, one stitch at a time, especially when you're using fancy floss. And I really don't like the look of cross country or journeying. I'm not sure why I don't like the look of it, because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still making crosses, but I just think that my tension is a little bit better when I do one cross at a time. And you know, the cross is finished, I don't have to go back. I don't like going back. I don't like repeating myself, and I don't like going back over what I've stitched. So I guess they go hand in hand. So that is question 16. So is there anything that you work on that you feel that it takes a lot of time, but it's still well worth it in the end? Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of today's video as well. If you don't want to answer any of the questions, don't forget to give us a thumbs up before you leave, and hit that subscribe button and set the notifications to all, and that way you won't miss out on any of our live streams, our Stitch With Me, our Finish It Fridays, or our tutorials, or anything like that. And we do have different tutorials. We have a varying different amount. We have quilting, we have sewing, we have, you know, craft making, and occasionally we do a cross stitch one as well. That is on the agenda for this year. So hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and then that way you won't miss out on any of our future uploads. And pretty much that is it from me. I hope you've enjoyed our little Q&A today. Sorry it wasn't live, but I will be back next week for another video with you, and we'll see where Hilda's up to. And because I'll probably get some done during the week between videos and whatnot. So I will see you all again next time. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye for now.